Air. We go. I do believe we are live. So I'll say, indeed, and greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. What a dear pleasure it is to have you here once again. Another opportunity for us to consciously evolve. Today, specifically, with what comes next in mind. I spent some time absorbing wisdoms from a author called Tony Seba. And he was talking about our species becoming stellar, where he was almost likening us right now to a species of production, where we make stuff. We extract resources from the dirt, and then we turn those resources into consumable goods, be it food, be it metals, be it oil, whatever, right? And our species, like transition basically from like hunter-gatherers into this production species. And he was talking about what comes next and how what comes next is us becoming what he calls a stellar species, right? And this resonates with me. This is something we've talked about a lot. And it is very much something that is related to this whole AI, robotics, fractal. And it basically envisions a future where we become a little bit more circular. Instead of being driven by capital, and if you think about it from a perspective of us being in this stage of production, all of the isms, the capitalisms, the communisms, the socialisms, those ways of being were competing with each other to basically produce more, right? And in that way, the one that's the most ruthless, the one that's the most cutthroat, the one that outputs the most stuff in this system of production is the one that ends up winning that kind of race. And that's why we live in a capitalist world today. However, as we continue progressing and as our birth rates fall, the ability for us to continually and indefinitely make line go up when it comes to our economy kind of falls apart. And in that way, we are called to try, at least, and envision what comes next. Karen Yari. Hey, friend. Karen, it's nice having you. Sending you blessings. How are you doing? What do you think about being a stellar human? Right? And that is something he talks about, where he doesn't talk about it from this perspective of someone is going to come and save us, someone is just going to like switch the flip and then suddenly we're a stellar species. Mohammed, are you meditating? Yeah, I'm always meditating, right? Meditation in that way is bringing yourself to mindfulness actively. Taking deep, controlled breaths, trying to control the direction my mind wants to flow within. And today we're choosing to flow within this direction of what comes next for our species, right? Let me see if I can accentuate today's topic by asking, search the web, sure. And you can do some extended thinking too. I can only choose one. Where are you from? I'm from South Africa, Karen. Karen, Yari. Is jy ook 'n Suid-Afrikaner? Jy mag dalk wees. I'm from South Africa. Why can't I have both? This is fine, I think. This is fine. I want both, please. Let me have both. It doesn't give me both. Fine, I'll just search the web. Today we're having a conversation about some of Tony Seba's predictions. In 2014, I believe he wrote a book talking about the energy transition that is going to come for our species, where we're basically trying to electrify and move towards renewables and batteries and electrically operated vehicles as much as we can. And if you fast forward 11 years later, the year is 2025, a lot of the predictions he made are exceeded, and almost every single one of them have been met. And I'm pretty sure he wrote another book now where he basically posits that we are now due for some change. We are due for what's next. And what he believes is next is for our species to become a stellar species, where instead of being driven by production and capital alone, we're driven by almost like needs, right? We try and meet our needs. And with robotics and AI, and with the amount of stuff we already have laying around, we're going to be able to recreate our economy in a way where it's a little bit more circular. If you just think about the batteries that were made like 20 years ago, we're using a third of the amount of metals in today's batteries, and they have almost double the energy density, sometimes 3 times the energy density. So when we end up recycling all of these old things we've already built as a production society, we will be able to create even more abundance into our society. However, he does posit that in the meantime, we might end up experiencing extreme inequality and potential suffering as we kind of like spin up the money printers to continually service our debt, as we cannot really keep up with this endless production, right? Like eventually, your species taps out with the whole production curve. I want to discuss this stellar species perspective, give us some points to think about. There's one point that he made where he mentioned that the only thing that can get us to that point is for us to become stellar humans. What does that look like? What does it look like to be a stellar human in that way? Yeah, that's the gist of it. That is the gist of it. I'm going to take a sip of water. Mohammed, for me, I don't think these people have any knowledge of the future. It's just an intelligent prediction, that's all. Uh, I mean, Tony Seba is pretty educated, right? And he's like an old dude as well on top of that. So he's been around for long enough to kind of like see the world change. And when he made his predictions, people didn't really believe him, right? They were like, yeah, hell no, bro. Hell no, are we going to up our solar installation 7,000% and battery percentage 7,000%? But those are the numbers, right? If you had to go back from 2014 to today, we have upregulated all of our production in that way 7,000%. That's what I meant, educated guess or prediction, rather than actual knowledge of the future. That I agree with, Mohammed. Nobody knows, and he's actually willing to say that as well. Nobody knows what's going to happen. You get this thing that's called emergence, right? So as systems of complexity basically interact with itself, there are things that emerge from that complexity, right? Some people believe that consciousness is emergent, where because of the amount of complexity in our brain cells, consciousness emerges from that. I don't believe that. I believe everything emerges from consciousness in that way and then complexifies to try and almost like catch up with this infinity. Your exploration of Tony Seba's vision is both timely and profound. Can he tell us good investment ideas so we can become rich in the future? I can. Buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin and Cardano. Those are basically the good investment ideas, right? Because in a world where we're going to only print money faster and faster, you have to find a store of value that they can do that to, right? Something ideally decentralized, something ideally that cannot be confiscated from you, where if you know your seed phrase, right, 12 words, you can keep it in your brain. They can literally strip you naked. And if you survive with the skin off your back, then you can access the network and actually be able to get your resources back. So that would be my advice to you, Mohammed. Study Bitcoin. Study Bitcoin and then learn about Cardano. I think Bitcoin is probably going to be the dominant, it is already the dominant asset. But I believe in programmability and I believe in governance and I believe in decentralization and I believe in technology, right, as it relates to being open source. And I believe in peer-reviewed papers, and I believe in people working hard to make things, right? And all of those beats, Cardano hits. Your exploration of Tony Seba's vision is both timely and profound. In Rethinking Humanity, Seba and James Airbip articulate a transformative shift where technological convergence in sectors like energy transport, information, food, and materials could lead to unprecedented societal change. So yeah, there's like one thing that he actually talked about in that interview where he talked about the iPhone, right? Why did the iPhone suddenly appear, right, in our world when it did. And the reason it appeared exactly when it did is because there was a technological convergence that happened at that point in our species, where the manufacturing capabilities, the screen capabilities, the battery capabilities, the processing capabilities, the software capabilities, the amount of income in that company to actually push these ideas forward. BlackBerry at that point starting to gain notoriety, putting a cell phone in every person's hand, the telecommunications company having all of this infrastructure and them only being able to sell 1 minute per minute. So they wanted a way to monetize these assets they already had. All of these technological convergences came together at the same time to make the iPhone, right? To make these cell phones that now have like helped me build my entire career, right? And because of this telecommunication infrastructure all around our world, I don't know where you are from, Mohammed, but I'm guessing you're not from South Africa, right? And the odds of me and you being able to have an exchange like this before the internet is very unlikely, right? Impossible, even. Let's continue. This convergence may result in production processes that are significantly more efficient, using up to 90% fewer resources and generating substantially less waste. I'm from Libya. There we go. Yeah, look at us. Look at us being here, all right? You might be in Libya and I might be in South Africa, but right now we are here in this moment together. Seba's concept of a stellar species envisions humanity's transcending traditional economic models, moving towards a system where needs are met through sustainable and circular means. Facilitated by advancements in AI and robotics, this paradigm shift suggests a future where abundance is not driven by endless production, but by intelligent resource utilization and recycling. I agree, but they have their pros and cons. Everything has pros and cons. Everything, right? Being a human being, pros and cons. So many, right? But you don't see me kind of like being like, oh, might as well not be a human because of all of the potential cons. No, I get insect bitten, I get hurt sometimes, I get hungry, I have to sleep and wake up and brush my teeth and wash my body. What's up, homie? What you finna get smoked or popped? You can try, oh. You can try, young fighter. I'm Bo Jacketh, oh. Yeah! All right. However, Siba also warns of potential challenges during the transition, is true, including economic inequality and societal disruptions. He emphasizes the necessity for humans to become stellar humans, individuals who are conscious, adaptable, and aligned with the principles of this new era. Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing, right? It's going to be up to us as people to get to that point, right? Because right now, as a species, it's easier for us to envision the end of the world than it is for us to envision the end of capitalism, right? And now we're seeing more of the, the bullshit. You know, China is having a hard time with their economy. India and Pakistan is basically spinning up the warmongering. China has literal trillion, I think $8 trillion in infrastructure that they've already put down in Pakistan, right? If missiles start flying, suddenly all of that investment just kind of like becomes pieces. Ace Ventura, yes. How would you like for me to make your life a living hell? Sorry, Lois. I'm not ready for a relationship right now. I think that is a massive compliment. Thank you, friend. It's nice having you here, Leon. Leon Thomas? Leon. Jay, are you from South Africa? I have to ask. I think the problem with the internet is it takes away from conservative values. I mean, for me, having kids, for example, exposed to phones and internet, they're going to see things. They're going to see things they can't unsee. Yeah, I grew up. I'm one of those kids, right? I've had access to the internet, unadulterated access to the internet, since I was a 6-year-old, right? And I've seen things I cannot unsee. But I'm still me, I think, right? I'm still a person. I'm still capable of love. I'm still capable of ambition and hopes and dreams. And in that way, nothing has changed. Tactical Spoon, that's a cool name. Hi to you too, friend. You look like the type of guy who wants to get smoked, my boy. I mean, I don't think I'm combustible. I'm like 70% water, bros. You can have a hard time smoking me. You'll have to dry me out first. I think we're moving too fast in terms of technology and all of that. It's one of those things where it's the new arms race, right? Like for the longest time, if you think about what we were going through a century ago, right? 100 years ago today, we were basically rushing to make weapons, of mass destruction, bigger bombs, planes that can drop said bombs, and then eventually nukes, right? So there was an arms race to see who can make themselves the new superpower, right? By building more and more weapons, by creating more novel ways to murder each other. And now, in the next century, we are in that arms race again, but that arms race is now technology, right? AI, robotics, and there is still some weapons of mass destruction going on, don't get me wrong, but the lever isn't now the weapon of mass destruction. It's more the technology, right? The technology is enabling us to build more and more sophisticated weapons, but the technology is the thing that we're trying to uplift, right? And if you think about it from the perspective of intelligence, right, as we're like applying this lever of technology to intelligence in AI, everything benefits, right? Biology, all the way to technology, right? Like from the goo that is you to the stuff that you interface with in this world. It said, hi, bless you again. The internet is just full of bad news. It has been these days, Leon. It's true. That's why I try and show up in this space and try and share as much good as I can from my side. You never see nice things these days. I hope this is nice. I wasn't here 100 years ago, and you're here right now, right? And if you had to go and ask one person to the next, do you think we're living in the best times, or do you think we're living in the worst times? Depending on what the person says, they're right, right? And they'll probably have reasons for believing it's the worst time ever to be alive, and some of them will have reasons to believe it's the best time ever to be alive. And in that way, it is up to us to kind of like form our own opinion. I don't appreciate the news wanting to give us, right, what we're supposed to think about. You're funny, not gonna lie. Oh, thank you, Mohammed. I appreciate that. Yeah, but I mean, like AI, space exploration, all that. I think we're focused on the wrong things. I think we should focus more on world hunger. Yeah, we're going to like we're already there technically. We're going to be doing precision fermentation, right? So world hunger is closer to being solved now than it's ever been before in the history of our species, right? That is the truth of the situation. Like 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, significantly more people were hungry than there are today. I'm not saying that that is okay, that there are still people that are hungry. It's more a matter of progress, right? Like these things happen on a curve. You're a breath of fresh air, my man, Leon. That's so nice. Bless you, friend. Believe both times were bad to live in for different reasons. Yeah. Today is a bad time to live in if you're purely concerned with almost like what comes next, right? Where in the past, at least, right, the what comes next narrative was a little bit more vague to a limited kind of perspective, right? If I was living 10,000 years ago, I might still have concerns in my mind about what comes next. You didn't answer my question, Mr. White Point Entertainment. I think your question might have been deleted. I don't see your messages up top. You can ask me again. All right, 10,000 years ago, hey Dexter, like the name, how are you? I'm doing good. How are you feeling? How's life been treating you? Today we're talking about becoming a stellar species. I feel like I'm parsing, trying to catch up. 10,000 years ago, right? The things that I looked forward to was maybe going out and planting something, right? Maybe watching my children grow up. Maybe having grandkids, right? That was like the level of this is what comes next for my life. Where in today's human being, the what comes next for us is so much more extreme, right? The fractal nature of the things that we're building is so much more exponential that it can feel a little bit overwhelming to our species. It's like, I cannot compute anymore what comes next, right? And in that way, I feel it's important for us to try and form some sort of collective understanding about what we want to come next. Do we want to be controlled by AI? Do we want to be policed? Do we want to be squashed, right, by those who have the biggest thumbs? Or do we want to see our species become something else? Do we want to see ourselves escape these kind of difficulties that we've been facing? I do think it is one of those things where, like we have people like Young Fighter who just keeps yapping all the time, they don't stop ever. And we live on planet Earth with people like that, right? There's not much that we can do. Right? We just have to like figure out how to stay in a state of peace in my heart. I come from a family where there's a lot of fighting, right? There's a lot of meanness. There's a lot of meh, 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 people telling me that I keep yapping. And I've had this ability in my life to be unfazed by that. I sub to, Leon, if you're new here, do subscribe. I do one of these streams every single day, right? Today is day 1589. We've not missed a single day, all right? And it is one of those things where the internet's a big place, all right? So I get it if you don't come back. But if you are looking for a space where we can have some positive conversations, where we can feel into our hearts as people, and this is like the real crux of this whole experience for me, where we can consciously evolve, right? Where we kind of acknowledge that, yeah, we're living in interesting times and we are going to have to evolve as a species. And then recognizing that we can't just evolve, like I can't just become something else, right? Grow 2 extra arms so that I can produce more stuff. It doesn't work that way. So I have to evolve in here, right, as consciousness. And we do that here together. We're both from Africa. We know there are a lot of people struggling while humans are spending so much money on things that they don't really need as much. Oh yeah, right. That I completely agree with, dear friend. But it is one of those things where we aren't, right? We don't really have the money to spend, but we can see the differences that is made. I feel like Africa is definitely one of those countries that have been basically just a hub of exploitation, right? And keeping the country poor means that you keep labor poor, means that you keep all of the exports cheap, meaning that if you're a country that is in a position of power, you get to benefit from that whole power dynamic, which is a little bit scummy. I love the palm tree behind you. I've got to go. It was nice talking to you, Mohammed. It was nice having you here too. Bless you, Dexter. I know nothing about your channel, but I subbed anyway. Bless you. Yeah, I like give you like a little bit of like the cliff notes. It is a conscious evolution channel, right? We acknowledge that. I'm gonna turn on my noise cancellation because that freaking pressure pump is whirling. We acknowledge that it's going to be hard work for us as people to cope with this reality that we're in, right? With the amount of inequality, with the amount of pain that is experienced, and being empathetic towards the fact that there are people that are even worse off than we are. The level of inequality with like the difference in countries where depending on where you spawned, depending on where you were born, depending on the parents that you got, you live a certain quality of life, right? And I feel like there was this conversation I had with my mom last night about people that live in bad circumstances, to say it in so many words, right? Where if you are in bad circumstances, it enables you in that way, right? To almost beget more bad circumstances. And the same is true for being in good circumstances. If you're in good circumstances, it enables you to beget good circumstances in your life. And breaking out of those patterns, right? You can technically beget bad circumstances coming from good circumstances, and you can also technically beget good circumstances from bad circumstances. And it is going to be a matter of the decisions we make, right? And the decisions we make is going to be the quality of our conscious evolution, right? The more we're willing to consciously evolve, the better our decision making ability becomes. Why is my question getting erased? It might be inflammatory, dear friend. I don't know. I am seeing the other stuff that you're asking. No messages pop up, bro. I also haven't seen them. Are you dressed as the Joker today? I mean, I don't really see this as Joker outfit. I'm more like dressing red. I like looked in my closet and I was like, yesterday I wore dark colors, right? Darks, like navy blues with like some purples and stuff. And then I was like, yeah, I want something a little bit more light today. Your questions are unworthy. Yay, John. Absolute savage. No, he's Ace Ventura. I do like that. If he is gay, I'm not going to listen to a homo lecture. If he is straight, I'm going to give it a chance. Am I asking too much? Oh, yeah, I'm both straight and engaged, right? So I'm like extra, extra straight. I'm gonna marry a woman. Now you can listen to me, right? And just for what it's worth, White Point Entertainment, it doesn't serve you, right? I get it if you're like squeamish with people that choose to be sexually oriented differently to you, but it doesn't serve you, right? Maybe a person that's gay might know more than you. And then if you actually can suspend the judgments you hold against them, you might learn something. And then learning that thing might benefit your life in the future, right? And you can only be benefited in that way by kind of letting go, right? It's trivial. Why does it matter? Why does it matter who another person wants to kiss, right? Like for what it's worth as well, when it comes to like public displays of affection, I can be pretty squeamish as well in general. You know, no matter how you orientate. So I get it, right? I do get it. You got some issues. Oh, shame. Yes, you were asking too much. Most it's nice having you here too. We have Lottie. This guy plays victim his entire life. No, I don't think so, actually. I consider myself very successful, right? Despite the circumstances that I've come from. I live in Africa, dude. I live in Africa, all right? Here in Africa, in South Africa, for example, 60% of people my age are without work, right? So if I had to kind of like make myself a victim, you know, I would fall victim to the statistic and I would just be wasting away, right? Be waiting for something to change. But no, no, we show up. We show up for it today. And as we do that, we get to change things. We get to create a new world for ourselves. Why does he read chat backwards? I read it one piece at a time. I'm trying to read all of them. I believe in free speech. Good. Bro is a professional yapper. Bro can yap for hours without stopping. It's true. I have absolute yapomatic strength, right? When I was in the character creation screen, there was like, you know, all of these different bars. And then I saw the yapomatic bar and I like absolutely pushed it to the max. I was like, yeah, give me more yapums. I'd like all of it. Right, Young? These attention seeker streamers are the degenerates of society. Yes. And the people that watch YouTube streams and then comment on those streams, calling others degenerates, those are the people we're supposed to look up to. Oh, my man. Congratulations. Thank you, White Point. Jesus Christ is the best experience life has given me. To know the Creator is beautiful. I agree. Knowing the Creator definitely is an experience of bliss, right? Everywhere. Every rock you lift, every little bark you pull up, there the Creator is. I wish you guys an eternal happiness. Bless you. Thank you, friend. It's crazy how he has watched the stream this long, yet think you're gay, yet hates them. Yeah, I mean, right? Like when I see people kind of have that extreme bias or that extreme aversion to gay people, to me, that usually like kind of brings up certain suspicions in me, right? It's like if you thought I was gay and you only wanted to give me a chance because I might be straight, but you were still watching despite it, why? Right? I'm from Scotland. Nice. I'm from South Africa. It's nice having you all the way here. I don't know what his deal is. My deal is to be present, right? To show up in every single moment. He has 10 points in charisma. Nice. Yeah. Maximum charismums. What did I have to sacrifice? Right? Because when you're in a character creation screen, you only get so many points. And I do think I put some extra points in charisma. I think I'm lacking points in intelligence. Some points, right? I wish I had more, but I think I would be less charismatic if I had more intelligence. So trade-offs. I think I'm lacking some points in, is it dexterity? Yeah, I think I could be more dexterous too. I think I'm fine on strength. I think I have like 6. If the max is 10, I got like 6 strength at least. Luck. I think I skimped on luck the most. Yasi. But it also like the times that the luck does kick in, that one point that I did skill, it does kind of serve me at least. Hey Tristan Blaze. Tristan, do you play Fallout? I've played Fallout. I don't actively, but you know what I'm talking about with the whole character creation screen thing. Exactly. It is kind of vibes like that. You're just joking, mate. It's your triggers. Oh, I missed that message. Just joking. South Africa is the last place I thought you were living. Like, this scene is from GTA 6. Yeah, I'm sitting in front of a wall that is completely covered in lines. This little spot that I'm sitting in is closest to the Wi-Fi. So, yeah, I do like sitting here regularly. Bro is undergoing his main goal of putting out 1,000 streams where he yaps till he taps. No, I've broken that record a long time ago. Look at this. Oh, look at this. Here's my channel stats. All right, and then if I go here, I go content, and then I go live streams. All right, you'll see how it just goes, bro. Day after day after day after day after days, days upon days. And if you look at the title, you'll see it says day 1589 of ceaseless yapping. So much yapping that the yapping doesn't stop, right? Because that is what we're here to do. You might not know it, but literally everything in your life, literally everything in your life was begotten through yapping. People had to speak to each other. People had to make real what was in their minds for you to have a cell phone, for you to have existed. Your parents had to talk to each other before they had sex, ideally, right? For you to exist right now. So, guess what? Yapping is literally the building blocks of our species, and getting better at being a communicator enables you to build things, right? So keep practicing. At one point, you'll get good, I'm sure. We all lack something. That's why we all have a separate God-given gifts. Hmm, that's an interesting perspective. I do agree with you on the whole. We all have God-given gifts, right? But I don't know how I feel about the whole lack perspective. I think lack is one of those things that is noticed, right? You notice lack where you end up taking for granted what you have, right? The hedonic treadmill, us ceaselessly chasing, right? I have now everything I wanted. What's next? That is today's dream topic, after all. It's nice to come full circle to it. Do you play Fallout? Nah. Trans kids rule. Bless you. My toddler is gay. I'm like imagining those little kids, especially as like a like where my mind's going right now is how I grew up in a very conservative kind of like town, right? So being gay is very not okay. And as you grow up with your peers, right, some percentage of people just end up turning out that way. And I would know, right? I had a very like real sense for who was and who wasn't. And it's so interesting to see how now, as we're adults, I'm turning 27 in 6 days, right? As adults, people actually do kind of like find comfort in their own sexuality. And you feel affirmed, being like, yeah, I called it, I knew it, right? And those people were appreciated too, right? They were also loved. They were just unable to be themselves fully, the way they might have wanted to. Uh, yeah, it does seem like a rage bait account, probably. Thanks, Paul. It's true. Yapping is an underrated skill. It's true, right? And unfortunately, with people now having, right, discovered this verbiage of yapping, right? It's only going to be harder for people to actually be proper communicators because, right, some people would rather just break someone down, just stop yapping, than actually learn proper communication skills themselves. At least I'm at a point in my life, right? I'm not a kid anymore, where I can see blatant insecurity when it's faced with me, and I'm like, oh, do you know what you're saying? You are telling me something, but I don't know if you know what you're saying. People need to talk more these days. Yeah, like we are literally experiencing a loneliness epidemic where people are not talking to each other anymore, right? And then again, right, echoing the previous sentiment, like telling a person stop yapping when they do actually try and share the depth of their soul with you is only going to beget more of this loneliness epidemic. And I can imagine, right? Like you won't go out and say stuff like that if you weren't lonely yourself, right? Where is the puppy? Good question. I don't think he knows I'm sitting down. He's probably inside, knocked out, sleeping as well. Real men don't talk that much, Leon. Ah, real men. Like my mind wants to make a joke, something, something. Did your dad not talk to you? Right? And I'm not gonna be mean. I don't want to be mean. Uh, but you're wrong. Define a real man with objective characteristics, and you'll realize you're incorrect. Yeah, and if you look at all of the real men, if you look at the men with real power on our planet, every single one of them are beautifully articulate, right? They spend most of their time yapping, if you want to use that word, because that's your job. If you're in a position of power, it's your job to communicate your ideas, to communicate the ethos that you're trying to pursue, to kind of like get people on board to move the same direction, right? That's what communication is for. We communicate to make other people feel the way we do, right? And sometimes certain feelings are good, sometimes certain feelings are bad, right? Like if you want to make another person feel insecure because you're insecure, then both of us are insecure. Congratulations, you've achieved nothing, unfortunately, right? And the same is true the other way around as well. Andrew Tate, oh, jeez. Real men don't exist. Once you're born, you're real. Yeah, I like that, John. Exactly. Yeah. And again, right? If not talking made me more of a real man, then I don't want to be one, I guess, right? Oh yes, I'm gonna have anger on my face. Sit in silence. Yeah, look at me, real Manning. Oh, that seems fun. That seems so adventurous, right? You can have all of the real Manning for yourself, I guess. Mm, Dude, I am just trolling. Are you aware of this, right? Yeah, I can guess. That's why I'm not. At least I don't think I'm fighting, right? I'm pretty chill. Take sips of waters. I think the best part is that I'm technically supposed to be quicker to anger at this point in my experience, right? I decided that this month I'm going to take a break. I'm usually an avid lover of marijuanas, right? Me and Mary Jane have a very intimate relationship. We've been together for a long time, right? Since I was 18, right? And this relationship is one of I love the smell, I love growing this plant, I love appreciating and experiencing it with friends, right? So it's something very special to me. However, because I love it as much as I do, I tend to not go without it ever. And at this point in my journey, I decided that I need to take a break again, right? So we're 8 days into a cannabis fast. And usually, when I do take a break, all of that potential rage in my spirit, right? All of that rage against the machine, right? Wanting to anarch the world, wanting to take my hammer and start bashing things to bits, right? That's usually the energy that kind of arises in me. And however, this time around, I've not been feeling quite as much that way. And it's interesting to me to see how, even despite all of the challenges that I experience from the outside world, I am more in control than I've ever been. We are always growing more in control than we've ever been if we choose to consciously evolve, if we choose to pay attention. Zoom, 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 zoom. If not, you really have issues. 12 or something. Or trad. Yapping doesn't mean talking or communicating, bro. What have you been saying? You've been saying the exact same thing over and over and over again, young fighter. So seems like both of us are yapping, right? And if you're gonna give me the advice, right? Let me give you some advice. Yap less. You should follow your own advice too, right? Think maybe you should live by example. You should show me what it looks like to yap less, so I can learn from you. All wisums, Mr. Sir. There's so many new friends here. I see David. Hi, friend. Hey, David. And Cody. Yeah, I said Cody. The consequences will never be the same. I think I'm missing some context. We have Zawad here again. Undead Ski. We got a Paul here and a Zoya, and a higher observer. Yo, Meltmore, what the fuck? I watched you on Reddit years ago. Yay! We got another Reddit friend. Hey, friend. Here we are again. Oh, we haven't stopped. We have not stopped since Reddit days. Oh, remember how I was like showing up every single day during those Reddit days? We haven't stopped, the higher observer. I so love finding the RPAN friends here again. I think this is the second time this week that we just randomly stumbled upon one of the old RPAN friends. Do give us a subscribe. We are still doing it, though. We're still showing up every single day. We haven't missed a day. We're going forever, forever, forever. I will never stop. Right? Nothing can stop me. Game. Genes. Genes are selfish, enacting upon the individual. Behavioral traits are initially selfish unless there is some kind of byproduct mutation, mutilisms. I don't know what that means, Paul. Genes are selfish. Hmm. I mean, technically, yeah, right? Because genes technically want their version of the gene pool to continue, right? So I think I can agree with you. And then the second point is behavioral traits are initially selfish unless there is some kind of byproduct mutualism. Yeah, it's true as well, where I'm like selfishly showing up for my own best interests. But if it happens that me showing up for my best interest kind of aligns with you showing up for your best interest, then there is some sort of mutualism that is arising, right? And again, it's impossible for mutualism to arise if we don't have the ability to communicate, right? Like when our species figured out how to grunt together, right, to slay an animal, we suddenly had more calories as a society, as a like, tribe, right? And our species kind of like progressed and continued exponentially because of our ability to communicate. The consequences will never be the same. I don't know what that means, but yeah, it's true. It's true. The consequences in the past used to be significantly less serious, right? Less permanent, right? Like forever, literally for all of existence, young fighter would have been that person that said all of those things. They might grow up eventually. They might evolve as a spirit, as a soul, to the point where they're not just spewing inflammatory diarrhea at random strangers on the internet. But right now, that's kind of the reality, right? And I just have to keep my suit on, make sure I don't unzip it while the shit is flowing. Okay, I'm laying it on thick to make a point. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm going too far. My fault. So what? You're okay. Love is true. I already quit for 2 months, never going back. How about that? How about that? Yeah. Sometimes right? Sometimes you're not supposed to go back. I'm proud of you for listening to yourself, friend. Tomorrow is my Bangla exam, mother language, and ABT. 20 hours? Is it 20 hours away? But it's completely creative, and I suck at Bangla. Well, for what it's worth, maybe this can give you some calm. I'm probably worse at Bangla than you are, right? So boom, here you go. Little pip in your step for that. Meltmore, thank you. I've been feeling this exact way. Paul, you were loved. Cannabis fast? Please explain. I smoke like a chimney. Yeah, I'm just like I also smoke like a chimney, right? I don't technically smoke anymore. I have this thing called a Dynavap, which is a dry herb vaporizer. So I don't actually combust my material. I just evaporate the THC off of the dry leaves. But I like it a lot. So I end up doing it pretty much all day, right? Every day. And yeah, it's fine. I'm still showing up. I'm still making my art. I'm still giving my yoga classes. I'm still getting my work done for the clients of my business. However, because I have that cyclical, I do this every day, it kind of loses its specialness a little bit to me, where I'm like, ah, this is just something I do, instead of this is something that I like to do, right? And taking a break kind of gives me back that this is something I like to do energy. Bless you again, the higher observer. So nice having you, all the way from the ARPAN days. You got this, Awad. Alan Watts says, no amount of worry will change what will happen. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You'll get through it. That is so nice. It's true. Thank you, Jovan, for echoing that loving sentiment. We got a Pojo driving by and loving us. Bless you, bro. So nice having you. You've been missed. We have Dorcas and Anthony joining us too. Bless you, friends. It's nice having you here. Have you shook? 100%. I'm subbing, no doubt. Oh, thank you, friend. Yeah, 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 yeah. For some reason, like maybe I can share this little bit of excitement with you, friends. YouTube changed their algorithms, right? Like something changed recently, like 5 days ago, something changed. And we've met now twice, people from the RPAN days. And the fact that you friends can still recognize me gives me a certain sense of hope. Like, it makes me very happy. So, what's the topic? Today, we're talking about what comes next, Zorro. What comes next, right? We did like start today's stream by talking about Tony Seba's prediction that our species needs to transition from being a production society to being a stellar society, right? Which looks like circular economies, efficiency, recycling, utilizing the resources we have to meet our needs instead of utilizing our resources to satisfy our wants, right? So that's where what we were kind of discussing, but there's so many friends here that I cannot don't want to pull away from the comments. Stellar Society, yeah. Where is your shirt from? Uh, from a shop? I think so. Yeah, I think it was bought from like you walk to the mall and then you like look to your right and then you see a shirt you like and then you walk into the shop and you're like, take my money, sirs, and then they give you the shirt. Uh, I'm sorry. This shirt is so old as well. I don't know if they sell this design anymore. Missing you, friends. Been busy. Loving you so much, Joe. We're always here with you, holding you close. Life is good. The atmosphere is warm and windy. The birds and bugs are happy. The sky is still blue, and love is still true. Isn't that so nice? I appreciate you echoing that sentiment. You're always held close. Yes. Yeah, Rastafari. Aya, Hayalis Selassie One Love Mon. Boom Clot. I butchered that, Dorcas, but I tried. I did try as an honoring to the Rastafarian culture. Bless you too, Anthony. This feels like Reddit front page vibes today. It does, doesn't it, Joe? Like we even got like a nice mix of the haters plus the people that appreciate this space. Like I haven't been as cold to like control control the parts of me that start swinging. Love is true. Dorcas, Ya Rasta, bid them, light them, seek. And if I answer to creation himself, I and I will answer to creation himself. I and I, right? Not you and me. I and I. We're the same thing, right? I'm just happening to sit here as this thing that you are, and you're happening to be there as this me that is. Right? And all the things you see in me, the things you find fault with, the things you find admirable, are qualities inside you as well. Right? And once we realize that in ourselves, we calm down. We do calm down just a little bit. So what's the topic? Yeah, the light of love is shining through. Bless the space, that our society. Recycling is completely in shambles. Yeah, it's true. I'm not so much talking about plastic recycling, more so metals, right? Metals recycle pretty well, at least. Stellar Society, bless these creatures that spend time here, bless the witch shop. I never see any of your hippie clothes in the mall. I don't know. It's unfortunately the answer. I do not know, right? Like that's why I told you, like we were walking in the mall, and then I like looked to my right. I'm not too concerned with, oh, I want Balencianas or is it Gucci? I don't care. You smoke weed and eat vegetables. No, I do smoke weed, but I'm actually keto. Ah, well, I'm gonna have to put you in timeout. Yeah, there we go. I'm not gonna ban you. I'll put you in timeout for a minute. Oh, it gives me choices now. I can like put you in timeout for a bunch of different amounts of time. I'll give you a minute so you can chillax. I do keto, right? So I'm actually the opposite of a vegetarian. I only kill things. Things have to die so I can live. I don't know why I'm making it weird. I'm sorry. But yeah, I do keto. And I'm not smoking weed right now, you know. I usually do every day, but today and for the next 22 days, I am taking a break. Oh, no, 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 no. Recycling. Is that shirt one of your designs? No, Jess, not yet. I would like, I even have this whole ambition, let's call it, where I want to be dressed in all of my own designs. But for now, these are still one of the ones that I purchased, right? These are some of my own designs. And I would like a shirt like this. Don't get me wrong. I think it'll be sicketh. But for now, I'm wait. Yeah. Right? Let's discuss. Let's consider. What does it mean to be a stellar human? What do you think of the big weed lobby? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. As in people lobbying for weed? I think people probably see it as a money making opportunity if I have to communicate what I think about it. But I feel like I'm missing some context. Her big gives big Florida vibes, like your stuff also. Maybe Florida is a place for me to go and share my arts. This scarf comes from America. A friend called TJ sent it to me. So, yeah, would like to be able to make stuff like this too. What does it mean to be a stellar human? First and foremost, I feel like it knows me too well because this is like blowing some smoke up my ass. First and foremost, conscious evolution, embracing personal and collective growth, recognizing that our actions and our words contribute to the broader trajectory of humanity. That is like a big deal, right? It's such a big deal. And unfortunately, we are not as aware of that, right? We're kind of like fast and loose with the things we say, with the things we do. Because again, like we are definitely very isolated as a people, very selfish, unfortunately. So we don't have to think. I don't know. I'll just say this thing, you know. I don't care. I don't care if it affects the trajectory of humanity. I don't care, right? Fuck humanity, some people say, right? Let them die. And yeah, guess what? If that's the kind of way you show up, that's going to be the way you feel, unfortunately. Have you read Friedrich Nietzsche? Not enough, you know? At one point in my life, the higher observer, I had, sorry about that. At one point in my life, I had this aversion to Friedrich Nietzsche's work because I felt he was spiraling a lot. But I have like listened to a lot more of his work now than ever. Thus spoke Zarathustra. It's like the craziest book ever. He was a linguistical genius, right? I don't know if people know this about him, but Friedrich Nietzsche's whole thing was essentially studying languages, right? That was his thing. And then from that level of vastness, understanding how we use words, why we use words, where words come from, almost like the way that we narratively build inside our own minds. He understood that very intrinsically. And then he was looking at what our species was up to, right? And then the line, God is dead and we killed him, you know, was like basically the one thing people remember he said. But if you understand where he's coming from, you you get it. It's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious. All right, what's happening? We kind of did, right, through our words. What time does your Starbucks shift start? That's hilarious. We don't have many Starbucks here in South Africa, unfortunately. But I think I thrive being a barista, serving people, making them their coffees, asking them their names and misspelling it accidentally, feeling bad about it for the next 5 minutes until the next person's name gets misspelled by me. Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father without going to Jesus. I thought it was through Jesus. Yeah, vast. That is quite an experience. I'm gonna have to bonk this person hard. Yeah, there we go. Disappears for 24 hours. Nice. Ceases to exist from my eyes. Technological integration. That's what comes next. Utilizing, and I know people don't like this. I know. But utilizing our artificial intelligence, our robotics, not just for efficiency, but to enhance human well being and societal equality. Do you think a woman could carry your God? I think all women are God, as much as every single one of you are too, right? That is kind of where my belief system arises. And I know that this is something that kind of creates some resistance in some people's hearts when I say it. But what God is to me is everything, right? And that as an extension means that you are a part of it, the infinity, right? So there is in my world no separation between what God is and what you are. So in that way, all of us are a part of this collective, right? And the way I see it, that if you believe in a good God, the only way you can convince the world of that good God is by being it almost, right? You have to be that good God in the world because there's everything here. And there's like wrathful gods as well, depending on which theology you follow. You're in South Africa. Are you a boer? I live on a farm and I do grow my own wheat plants. So if you want to split hairs, yes. Yes, I am a boer. A Taha boer. Or is it pagan evolution? Good energy and kind. I'll stop by another time. Thank you, Jess. We'll look forward to seeing you here again. Bless you, friend. Why does God punish men then? Uh, I don't know if God does punish men, right? I think it's more men punishing men, right? And in that way, it's again an extension thing, right? The parts of God that is men, that is wrathful, that punishes others, I believe is the insecure, the non-complete, the lacking in self, so you seek power over other side of God, where the God that I want to be, if we're going to say it like that, is the God of love, right? The God of peace, the God of kindness, the God of patience, the God of presence, right? Because all of those qualities we've seen historically serve our species, right? Help us build relationships, help us build teams. Those teams help us build things, build places, build experiences that are worthy, right? That people will come back to over and over again. We don't really seek punishment that much. My God gives free cookies, jeeps. I think I'm missing it or something. Singularity of consciousness, distinction between bodies and objectives. And objects is an illusion of duality. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Right. And again, the reason that that happens is because of survival. So if you have to think about it from this perspective of, yes, all is God and there is no separation, then you can ask why? Why then am I so concerned with myself? Right? And it is because if you aren't, you die. Right? If I was so vast in consciousness that I get to experience all of reality simultaneously, and by the way, there are ways to experience more of reality simultaneously. But the more of reality you experience simultaneously, the less percentage wise, experientially, your experiencing of yourself, right? And I know this might sound confusing, but a way to simplify it is that if you are so aware conceptually of the entire reality of all of the feelings of all of the people around you, of all of the goings on and the climates, the movement of people, of resources, if you're like ceaselessly aware of all of that stuff, you wouldn't have the capacity to bring a spoon to your face and eat food, right? You would starve to death because you would be overwhelmed with the ceaselessness of infinity. So we end up kind of packaging, right? And in that packaging, we filter a lot of the rest of reality. And then we look through this little keyhole that we call ourselves into reality. And then we consider ourselves separate because of that, right? And again, because I have to feed myself. Nobody else can feed me for me. Sure, somebody else can bring a spoon to my face and put food in my mouth, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to be the one that chews, swallows the food, and processes that as energy inside my body, right? So it is a matter of circumstances. We're definitely in strange circumstances. If we are God, then we make our own rules. There's no wrong or right. Each God makes their rules. Technically, that is the truth. I don't know if you've spent any amount of time looking at how reality works, but that's literally how it is, right? Some people do things, right, even though that thing that they're doing is harming other people, and they can convince themselves that it's right, right? And some people do things that are right, and they can be considered wrong, right? Because of these arbitrary rules that have been created. We talked about weed a little bit, right? The rules were that weed is illegal all over the planet for a long time. And now finally our species is coming around where we're like, oh yeah, weed does actually have some medical potential benefits, right? Reduces the amount of cortisol and stress, and helps mood upliftment, etc., 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 right? So in that way, right, the gods that used to be the control, the patriarchy, if we want to use that outdated term, wanted to control our species, right, and set rules in place, like you're not allowed to smoke weed. And then some people at least, just kind of conformed, just kind of went with the flow. Like, oh, well, this is the reality of the situation. Nothing I can do about it. And in that way, we robbed God of all of the experience that could potentially be had. My best friends that I made because I approached them with the intent to smoke a joint with them. And because they were also weed smokers, there was an automatic thing that we could relate with each other with, right? So it helps like break down those barriers of, oh, I'm my own person and I have my own hopes and dreams and all of my own ambitions, right? It kind of like, oh, both of us like this thing. Let's do this thing we like together, right? And then by doing this thing you like together, you show yourself experientially that there is a possibility, there is room for you to co-create with this person, even if it's just conversationally, right? The rules that are man-made, every single one of them. All of the rules, have been made by men, not by God, right? Not by some higher authority in that way, just by a authority. I wouldn't want the responsibility of being a god. That's the rough thing, right? Very few people do. And as a result, nobody does. Well, not nobody, but very few people do take responsibility for being God. And that's why we're in the position we are as a species. That's why we bomb people. That's why we let people starve to death. That's why we let people freeze, without housing. That's why, because we aren't willing to take that level of responsibility of like, oh yeah, we are God. We are the God that it is we're looking for, right? People spend their whole lives worshiping a God while destroying the only one they have, right? Our earth, our people. I can barely handle being a human. I believe the reason we have a hard time being human is because we aren't, Zara. If all is God, then each God makes their rules. That is literally how reality works, bro. Literally. Literally. Like my rules, for example, is show up every single day for love. That's one of my rules, right? And me as God does that, right? It's not that I'm not forced. I can do whatever I want. I can make new rules if I wanted to. But because those are the kind of rules that I want to follow, I do. And I show up for that. You think a lot can come back to questions. Yes, true. Please do ask all the questions you feel you need to. I make my own rules. I am to God as a droplet is to the ocean. Yeah. Lead your life holy and holy. No need to follow what isn't true to you. Reality is relative. Perspective is reality. I love that, y'all. So beautifully said. I'll admit it. This is going over my head. It's okay, Zara. Like, again, there is no need for you to believe the things that I believe, right? I only share from the perspective of what has helped me because I came from a place of extreme depression, extreme hopelessness, extreme hatred for humanity, even, right? At one point in my life, I hated people because I saw the amount of suffering, I saw the amount of exploitation, and I associated that suffering and that exploitation with people. And it was because at that point in my journey, that's what I was focusing on. As Jovan beautifully said, that was what my perspective, my perception was focused on. And as a result, I ended up feeling that way about myself as well. And at that point in my life, I tried to commit suicide, right? I wanted to kill in myself that which I hated. And then in attempting to do so, I realized that if I succeeded, the only thing I killed is my opportunity to continue forward and make a difference, right? And even if I succeeded, I would have to like repeat eternity to come back to that moment where in a kind of like quantum reality situation, I didn't make that decision. So like there is no escape and there is only forward. Hello, 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 Liam Jacobs, bless you. Kanyo, remember me? Yeah, I do, Liam. It's nice having you. There is no right or wrong if we pretend to be God. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Again, my philosophy is love is true, right? Where I think about it from this perspective of if we're God, then we are actively the creators of our experience, right? And if I'm the creator of my experience, what do I want my experience to be? And if I have to like run down a list, love, I want my experience to be something I love, right? It becomes clear to me that those are the rules that I want to follow. And then if I do follow those rules, right, as God for myself, then I get to live a life of love. And then if I die, I get to take a certain level of solace. I take calm in the fact that love was true for my life, right? I can come to a different conclusion as well, right? I'm God and I'm going to be wrathful, right? And I end up fighting and killing people my entire life and I become the most powerful dictator on planet Earth, standing upon dead bodies with my spear, right? And then I die. Am I going to be proud of myself? I don't think so. So I don't want that, right? It's a matter of you do decide what your life is going to be. You do, whether you believe it or not, whether you follow someone else's rules for life or not. It's still your choice to, right? And you're still the one choosing to believe in that God's rules. So it's basically you making those rules for yourself. Okay, but can people live without weed? Of course. People have been living without weed for a very long time. I don't think it's a matter of living without it. Like people can live without shoes, right? But it's kind of comfortable having a pair of shoes with you, right? If you're going to be walking in a place where there might be thorns. And we live in a society that can be very insensitive, it can be very oppressive, right? And we might feel very undervalued just being a person in this world. And in that way, as shoes serve us in protecting us from the thorns that come from below, weed can help us protect us from the thorns that come from society, right? So it's a matter of how we use these things. So your entire friendships are based on weed? No. I said some of my friendships have been formed with weed as a help, right? It's like again, like have you ever wondered why we eat meals together? Right? Why do we eat food together around the table? Think about it. Why do we watch movies together as people? Why do we drink together as people? Right? Try and formulate the reason in your mind. And then I can give what I believe the reason is. And I believe the reason is a shared consciousness, right? So when I'm kind of like going about my life as an ego, I am very self centered, right? Because the depth and the complexity that is my mind and my experience is something that you cannot have, right? Because you haven't gone through everything I've been through. But when we suspend all of that and we sit down at a table to enjoy a meal together, there is a shared experience that forms in that communion, right? I know what my food tastes like, and you have the same food on your plate if we cook together. And then us tasting these things together shares this, right? Communal experience in both our brains, and that helps us relate to each other. Same thing with the movies, same thing with the alcohol drinking, same thing with the weed smoking, right? It allows a certain shared state of consciousness. And that shared state of consciousness is a reminder of the truth of this reality that we are the same consciousness, right? And that, at least in my personal opinion, allows us to see the person instead of just looking through them or looking past them, only seeing what we want to see. Have you read the Quran? No, I can't say I have. These questions I raised are asked in the Quran. We have free will. This I agree with as well. Oh my, so you can take your house, and I have made a rule. Again, right? If you believe the rules in the Quran, hey Muskan, it's nice having you. You're the one choosing. You're still the one choosing, right? I grew up in a Christian household, and my family chooses to believe in the Christian God, right? Does that make them wrong because they don't believe in the Quran God? To you, it might, right? In my opinion, you're both wrong. I'm throwing shade just for the joke of it. I don't actually think you're wrong. I just think it's a matter of perspective, right? And again, what you choose to believe is what you chose to believe, right? Like it's a matter of your personal experience, right? I can't really take it away from you. What you resist persists, as above, so below. There is no right or wrong, there only is. And what you decree will be. Your perspective is your reality, each and every one of us. Your reality is relative to you. It is undeniable. Exactly. Chet Hanks. Uh, my daddy, Tom Hanks. Oh, that's cool. Tom Hanks is one of my favorite actors. One of the most recent movies I've watched from him is A Man Named Otto, and I really did cry watching that. Were you goth? Yeah, technically I was. I never went full black makeup, but I went full anarchy, listening to punk rock music. You know, Bullet for My Valentine, 3 Days Grace, Fall Out Boy, Sum 41, Blink 182. You know, that was like my whole shtick as a teenager. So yeah, 100%. There is objective reality and truth. Yeah, and I believe love is true, right? That's the only thing that I can definitively prove is true, right? Love. You are God, we all are, I believe. What is the ocean to the droplet? The place of finite and the infinite, perspective in the unknowable. Exactly, pilot. So, right, again, separation is a narrative. And again, if you think about religion, religion is narrative, right? Today, we had a friend share with us this narrative that if we're the ones that are God, then the rules don't matter. That is a narrative, that is a story that is perpetuated in mind. And if we can link this to the whole droplet to the ocean fractal. If a wave crescendos, right, and then a little drop breaks off that wave, now suddenly that drop is falling through the sky. Through narrative, we can label that little drop falling as a drop, right? Oh, that's a drop. And then as soon as we watch that drop merge back into the ocean, we're like, that's ocean, right? But at what point? At what point is it drop and at what point is it ocean? And at what point do we realize there is no separation? And that is kind of the narrative we're trying to remind ourselves of every single day. There is a collective understanding. The more energy there is put to a thought, the more real it becomes. Hitler believed in a certain God and told that to his people. As I said, as above, so below. Yeah, as Jovan said, Hitler was a God believer, right? And through his belief in God, he felt affirmed, right? In killing a bunch of people because he was bolstered by his beliefs, including in his beliefs was that there's a certain sense of superiority in him, right? God given, and that he was God righteous to go and murder other people, right? That's his belief system. That and we saw what happened because of that as well, right? Just because you believe in God doesn't make you a good person, unfortunately. Bouncing between imaginary worlds and situations is just noisy words. I'm not really bouncing between imaginary worlds, right? Like the ocean and a drop is something very experiential to all of us, right? All of us know that. But again, is that drop not still the ocean, right? If it like, do you think that drop just like keeps floating as a drop there in the rest of the ocean, right? Like, ah, I want to be a drop. The drop says to the ocean, no, no, there is just emergence that happens. Guys like this are the worst. Even his cadence is some guru bullshit. Well, I appreciate you for finding yourself here nonetheless, Chet Hanks. Right? I do agree with you that I do have some cadence sometimes. I'm not trying to be a guru necessarily. I at one point did want to be, just to like meet you halfway. At one point in my journey, I did think I was supposed to be a guru. However, at this point in my journey, I just want to be me, right? I want to live as authentically as myself so that when the inevitable day comes that I die, I don't have any regrets, right? I don't have to say to myself that, ah, if only I, whatever, right? I'm doing the things now that I might regret not doing tomorrow. Allah says, were you created by nothing or did you create yourselves? Again, right? If we're going to talk about being created by something, then my mom is closer to God than something ethereal is, right? Because she's the one who gave her body to form me and gave her body as a portal for me into this existence, right? So if we're going to talk about who created us, we need to give a lot more credence and uplift our mothers, to the upper echelons. What's your name, bruh? Meltmore. Trust the Buddha. That's the only guru you should trust. Follow the dharmas. Very good advice, Anthony, who created you and fashioned you. Again, right? Closest person to actually have created me and fashioned me, my mother, right? My mother did. I'm a caretaker for disabled people. All my clients smoke weed. It's medicine. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate you echoing that sentiment. I am still very angry, right? You might not know it. I hide it well. But there is this rage uncontained in my spirit, right? Especially as it relates to the injustices of our world. And weed is my medicine, especially for that enraged part of myself, right? When I'm enraged, I'm not kind. When I'm enraged, I'm not patient. When I'm enraged, I'm not friendly. When I'm enraged, I'm not lovable or loving, right? So having a medicine that helps me, right? And again, I'm not smoking for this month, so I'm 8 days without this medicine. I'm still capable of bringing all of that wisdom with me. It's not necessarily a crutch for me that I have to keep walking with in order to not be enraged, right? But when I find myself in that space of spiraling, having this medicine helps. And again, it's been around for thousands of years. It's actually natural. All of this stuff around me, right? The clothing that I wear, the toothbrush I use, the toothpaste I put on my stuff, the water I drink from a cup, that stuff, the cup that is, and the toothpaste and the brush, that stuff is not natural. Cannabis, however, is found in the real world. You take a little seed, you put it in the ground, and then you have this thing that provides you an experience, right? It exists in the real world. And in that way, right, if we're going to be giving credence to God, I believe God gave us that as well. Don't worship creation, but the creator of all things. Uh, English translation says, say he is Allah, the one Allah, the eternal refuge. He neither begets, nor is born, nor is there to him any equivalent. So, with that as a mind, right? What were you, dear testing? What were you before you were born? Were you non existent? In the Christian way of thinking, you existed as soul before you got embodied as a person, right? Which means that you too existed. You too were begotten without being born, right? You too have no equivalent. Because if you did, then what's the point of you being here? The fact that there's no equivalent means that you are unique as you are, as the self, right? So, all of those lines, the eternal refuge, there is this eternal refuge as soul, right? When you meditate and you become one, right, as the Buddha says, with your experience, that is refuge. That is literally in the Buddhist fractal, the ultimate refuge to seek. And you can enlighten the rest of your planet by seeking that refuge in yourself as well, right? Like, I'm not actually that far away from what you believe too. It's just more a matter of like I kind of like erase all of the little lines we drew around what we think God is. You are becoming a slave when you take created things as masters. I don't though. That's what I'm saying. Literally what I'm saying. Like I lean into the part of me that is the infinite, right? Not the part of me that is the material, right? Because if this is the only part of me that I had concerns with, and at one point it was, you lead yourself to a place of depression. I had a somewhat similar feeling towards humanity. Now I feel indifferent to humanity. I seek transcendence from the limitations that humanity is. Whew, has some real stuff, the higher observer. I went through the journey like this: massive hatred towards humanity, and then through the experiences that I had, and at least the friends that I made at that point of my life, I gained an extreme love for humanity. Because through these friends, right, because I came from a family that had an extreme amount of judgment towards my journey, right, and I was made out to be a sinner, and I was made out to be a heathen, and I was made out to be someone walking the wrong path over and over and over and over again. And then suddenly, alongside these mind expansive experiences, I had friends who loved me just for who I am, right? Who celebrated me for the person that I'm here to be. And that changed the amount of love I have for humanity. It made me love people more. And that love for humanity almost extended to everybody. And in the recent times, right, as I grew up and as I, in my own ways, became more jaded, I almost started reserving a lot more of my love for those who deserve it. And there has been, in the same way, in my heart, a lot more indifference towards humanity as a whole in that way. And I'm on the same train at this point of wanting to transcend the limitations that my humanity is, right? And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to edit my genes. I'm willing to implant myself with technology. I'm willing to replace my limbs. I'm willing to upload my consciousness if it comes to that eventually, because it is this matter of we are the ones consciously evolving. We're the ones pushing our own transcendence forward. You're talking about psychology and human feeling. Human feeling is personal, not objective. Well, just so you know, human feeling is the only thing I have access to as a measure of value in this world. I think we're all right. Yeah. Jovan echoing that wisdom. Hi from Bloodhood, Rosita Bit Bis Bischico. Bless you, friend. It's nice having you. Testing a mother, good love. Love is not always true. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because again, if love wasn't true, then what's the point of continuing, right? If you knew for a fact there was no love to be had in the world, would you continue existing? I know I wouldn't. But because I know love is true, I continue existing, right? That's the way that I kind of measure it up. God isn't perfect and all loving, then If the world is full of suffering and imperfections, then that makes God not only impersonal, but also imperfect. They would also not be able to act in any way. Joe Walker, like that is kind of the whole struggle that I experienced as a teenager, right? When I stopped believing in the Christian religion that I was raised in, that was my exact kind of qualm. I went from being like a devout Christian to being a devout atheist, right? And like I'm saying devout from the perspective, I was that Christian who would come to you and ask you if you have been saved by Jesus Christ. Have you been saved? Right? And if you told me no, then I would sit down with you and I would ask you, do you have a Bible? And if you said no, then I would find you one. Right? I would go and ask my parents, I would go and ask the church, and I would bring you a Bible. That's the kind of Christian that I was. And then I turned 9 at that point of my life, and I was like still showing up with my dad to the church, and we got told, these grandiose stories about human beings having these flames above their head, like they were so spiritually enlightened and pure that they had these flames above their head. And I begged and I pleaded with God to reveal himself to me as a 9-year-old, and as a 10-year-old, and as an 11-year-old, and as a 12-year-old. And during this whole experience, I was plagued by extreme nightmares, right? Because alongside the narrative of God that I was taught, I was also taught the narrative of hell, right? And of the rapture, and of these monster entities that will flood our planet and eat us alive, right? Like I was traumatized as a child. And the only way for me to have escaped those feelings, right, is to abandon those beliefs, right? And I became, as I said, a devout atheist, where in the same way, I would be vocal in trying to find out whether or not you were a believer. I would be vocal in trying to get you to understand that you shouldn't be. And then around the age of 19, I stopped being an atheist and I became what I now consider a spiritualist, right? Which to me means I started my pursuit of what God is. Instead of believing what people tell me about what God is, I decided to, in my own experience, right, personal experience, go and seek out in this world what God is. And it is, as you said, right? It's not perfect. It's not easy. It's not necessarily replicatable, but it is mine, right? And nobody can take that from me. And in that way, it is up to me to choose how it is I want to continue being. Can you help me cleanse my theatins? I don't know what that is, but jump Z's, theatins are cleaned. There you go, friend. Testing. It is also not the eye that are blind, but the hearts. Oh, that's nice. Oh, my. When someone does wrong to you, you feel it, or does it to a child. You don't say he is God who chooses to do X. Yeah, I do, technically, right? I find it usually pretty sad, right, that God is pushed to the point of desperation like that. But again, uh, love is true, right? Even the person that steals and the person that kills still is capable of love, right? At least I believe. You talk too much but don't reflect. Okay. Satan has you by the tongue. Yeah, seems wise. Separation from God, believe in fear and insecurity, believing in the lack of power. That is separation from God. That's where evil comes from. Preaching separation, that's not love. Exactly. Right? I wasn't trying to separate any of us. I was quite the contrary. I was trying to remind all of us in this space today that there is no separation, right? That this thing, because like again, right, we had now this whole conversation and it ended with you telling me the devil has me by the tongue, right? Does that make any of us feel closer to each other? No, unfortunately, it does not. It only drives more divide between people. And that is my problem with religion. That has always been my problem with religion. As soon as I share something experientially, right, that doesn't align with what you believe, then the devil has me by the tongue, right? And then all potential value, all potential growth that can be communicated falls apart, right? And we separate ourselves. We go our separate ways because we cannot find common ground. Those evil actions come from a lower consciousness of ignorance. Yeah. Hello, Sissa. And now, merci le moon. Life.
Life gives you this.
Oh, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Shante walks up to me, gives me lemons, wearing a life thing. She's my sister. Hello, sister. Thank you, sister. I shall make some lemonade later.
Het also is
Oh,
zeker omtrent 10 kilogram sushi.
we got 20 pounds of sour lemons, apparently. 20 pounds, yeah. Bladums, nice having you. What's good, my G? AA is here too. Meltmore is not your real name. Yes, it is. And I've said this to you before, Ums. If you called me anything other than Meltmore, it wouldn't be my name, right? I would be like, I don't know who you're trying to address. I'm Melt. Yeah, it's a lot of lemons. Where do they come from? Nice. Is it their crop? Nice. Ja, ek gesien hy's eintlik 'n bietjie amper oranjerig. Nice. We have free will to act the good or the evil. We are told to do good if you follow the right path, and hell if you follow the wrong path. Yeah. Telling other people the devil has them by the tongue, in my world, is not the right path. You know? So again, it's a matter of perspective, right? Does that mean you're gonna go to hell? You know, if I started saying that to you, I feel that's where the whole narrative falls apart, right? It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to judge. I can't judge you, right? And all I ask is that you don't judge me. Am I late? Technically, we should be getting to the end of stream. I agree to that. Our experience can be peaceful or hellish, depending on what energy we choose to perpetuate. Free will is divine. Yeah, it's really interesting when you study many belief systems and see where they all align is true. Finding the truth in every single religion, and in that way, almost like first principles reasoning, right? Being like, what is the fundamental truth that it is I'm seeking from all of these experiences? You have a peaceful outlook, but are not looking above you into the heavens. I feel like you know why? You know why I'm not looking above into the heavens? It's because I believe that we're already there, dear friend. I believe we're already there. I think heaven in some people's mind is a place free from suffering. However, the way I've at least experienced is that it is more. It is experiential, right? My suffering is also the thing that I use to gauge my happiness or my peace, right? If God is identical to the universe, then surely they are not able to act, don't hear your prayers, or are indifferent to everyone's and everything. At that point, just be atheist. This I do agree, unfortunately, Joe Walker, right? And the way that I can articulate this to you is through this little story, right? And this will be the last one before we finish today's stream. I was laying on my bed and I heard this sound of something scratching against plastic, right? Then I went into my bathroom and I discovered that in the corner of my bathroom, there's a little dustbin, and inside that dustbin is a little frog trying to jump out of that thing. But it had one of those, hello, mama. It had one of those swinging doors. So even if it could manage to jump high enough to be able to reach the top of the thing, it would hit a wall or hit a roof and then it would fall back into the container. And then if we had to anthropomorphize and we had to replace ourselves and put ourselves in that position, if a person had to fall in a hole and even if they could jump high enough, they couldn't get the heavy lid above them to actually budge, the first thing they would start doing is praying, right? They would pray for God to send someone or pray for God to save them. And in the same way, maybe, and this is anthropomorphization, that frog was praying in the same way. Next to that frog was another one that was not as lucky to have been noticed and died, was completely dry, right? So there was in that moment to me such a clear example of one of these frogs didn't have me in this space, didn't have God to hear the prayers to save that creature. But this little frog is capable of being saved because I was close enough as that God to help. And that's the way that I have seen it, is that the universe as God isn't going to answer your prayers. And this might be, again, unpopular. However, people as God might be able to. People will be able to help you, right? Like the fractal of, like, for instance, blindness or getting ALS, right? There's a person. He's a Christian as well, by the way. The third person that got a Neuralink in their brain, he's a Christian, devout Christian. He got a Neuralink, right? So in this narrative, God gave him ALS, and he believes God gave him ALS so that he can get uh, better at listening to people because he's unable to talk. Literally, he cannot move his own tongue anymore to speak, right? And through that lens, uh, in my worldview, God are the people that developed this technology, right? That had the medical expertise to actually plant this chip into his brain. And now, because of his prayers, right? Maybe he had these prayers that, his life is made to be less full of suffering. His capability to communicate with his children would be enhanced, right? People, human beings, were the ones who were capable of answering those prayers. There was never going to be someone coming from the sky that gives him that ability, but human beings could. And that's the only thing that I believe about that whole fractal, is that it is up to us to be the God that we want to see in this world. Like, I'm sick of waiting, as another way to say it. We'll read these last few points. We can I don't know if it's that important anymore. You know what? I'm just gonna show you my little piece of art, actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got some blue yesterday. Here's yesterday's piece. All right. Let me check something quickly. There it is. I think I did miss some comments. Shante getting blessed. There was so much love sent in chat, but I couldn't see the rest of them. Mm, I think fear is the opposite of love. There it is. And I refuse to let fear lead my life. That to me sounds like suffering. I believe that goes against God's will. I believe this too, right? If God had to find out that I spent my entire life fearing going to hell, and that's why I believed, right? I don't think he's going to be very happy with me. It's like, what? You spent your whole life suffering down there? You were not supposed to do that. You were supposed to spend your whole life loving down there. What the hell is wrong with you? Take hallucinogenic and don't become self-righteous and preachy. Challenge model impossible. Well, pilot, I know a lot of people who have never taken a little bit of psychedelics and are self-righteous and preachy too, right? So it seems to be more a human thing than it is a psychedelics thing. My wrongdoing. Allah commands good speech. Speak good or remain silent. Yeah, I don't think I've been speaking bad, have I? In my personal opinion. Uh, if Allah always willed the universe to exist, then it would have always existed. Therefore, He couldn't have created it. If He didn't always will it to exist, then He can change. And so in time, well, like background radiation is all I'll say to that. It's like this universe is old, like really old. right? And it clearly seems to have expanded radically as well. So there seems to be an origin point, you know. So even if the universe was created by God, God did create the universe initially, right? So it hasn't always just been CO. It's nice having you. We have Tranquil Guy and Capri Hill here as well. True tribulation, rapture, or post tribulation rapture. I don't know what that means necessarily. So, how is South Africa post apartheid? Poor, I think, is a good way to say it. Surah Yasin. It is not for the sun to overtake the moon, nor does the night outstrip the day. Each is swimming along in an orbit. Yeah, I believe this too, right? And in that way, it shows that God is dual. At least that's what I consider of that. God is everything, right? God is the night as it is the light, right? There is no separation. We don't know all the animals in the ocean, but claim God doesn't exist. I never said God doesn't exist. Quite the contrary. I said we are all God, right? I just don't believe in a God that is out there, right? Because again, that is imagination, right? That is imagination. I have to imagine something out there, and then I have to believe in that imagined thing as well. And to me, it's very hard to do that personally. What do you mean? What are we talking about? We've been talking about being stellar humans, essentially. Do you know the edge of the universe, each and every planet? No. Yet arrogance and emotional ignorance lead to rejection of the Creator, of course, with the help of the devil himself. Well, it's interesting that the devil is so willing to help me, but God is unwilling to. That seems very strange. That seems very strange to me, right? You would think it the opposite way. But alas, clearly the devil is harder working. Then I attribute those wonderful things to humanity and compassion, empathy, and not to something other. Yeah, again, right? I feel like those are the godly aspects of our species, right? And there are aspects of our species that can be devilish as well, right? And if we live in a way where we uplift the godly aspects of our species, then we deserve to call ourselves as such, right? And the other side is true as well. I know people that call themselves the devil, right? I know people that call themselves the Antichrist. I usually look at them like, I don't know if you should be believing that about yourself, but yeah, both sides are true. Ciao, Gonzalo. Guten out. Thank you for the perspective. Thank you, Jean. Yeah, I've read the comments. Now it's time for me to read a poem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here I am being. Oh, this one. Joe likes it. Here I am being. This is like a more traditional, just 4-bar poem, right? And I did rewrite it a bunch of times in different ways, but this is the one that ended up being the best to me. It goes. I woke up again against all odds, with my meat suit intact and a nod from the gods. My brain can ache, my arms slept numb, but look at me go. I'm still not done. I hunger, I thirst, I gotta pee. Such is the price of humanity. I floss, I fumble, I scratch that bite, and still I choose to greet the light. I stub my toe on sorrow's stairs, then giggle at my body's repairs, a bruise, a bump, a skin kissed scar, each one proof I've traveled far. This flesh is flawed, this mind's a maze, yet somehow I keep finding ways to laugh, to stretch, to sing off key, to fall in love with being me. I'm leaking dreams and breathing pain, yet dancing softly in the rain. The world may bite, the bugs may sting, but I'm still here, and that's the thing. So hail this skin, this tender frame, this aching, breaking, burning flame. I'm not just living, I'm alive. And that, my friend, is how we thrive. You have to be alive, yo, right? And again, you have to live your life for yourself. right? Like, sure, you can live your life for an ideal, you can live your life for an entity, for a religion, for someone else, but rarely does that seem to work out for the people that pursue that way of being, right? Uh, I've seen so much desperation in my life, and I cannot conform to a desperate kind of living. Creation and creator are separate. Steve Jobs is not in the iPhone. Allah is above time and space, but by his knowledge, aware of every atom.
Ek is 12 kilogram uit. Dit is 22.4 kilo.
Sure. That's a lot.
3 pounds of 3
Yeah, so 40 pounds, 44 pounds. That's a lot of pounds of lemons. Yeah, right? Like, fortunately, testing, I grew up in a Christian household, right? So all of the things that you say about Allah, my family has been saying to me about Jesus, right? So who am I supposed to believe? Are you right? Are they right? Right? You see the problem. They fervently believe the same things that you believe. Well, you're colorful. Thank you, Brandon. It's nice seeing you. It's technically dark out here. I was more colorful when it was still daylight, but I'm going to say goodbye. It is the end of our stream. Look, we've made it. We've shown up despite all of the challenges. I'll show you something colorful just because you said something. Yeah, that was yesterday's piece of art. And the day before. And the day before. I Let's see if I can show you. Ah, alas. I can show you like this though. Yesterday, that's what I wore. And then with that picture, I made all of these. All right. And then this is the one that got chosen. And then the day before yesterday, I wore that. And then I made that piece of art. And then the day before that, I wore this. And then I made that piece of art. All right. And in that way, dressing colorfully allows me to make pretty things. And then I get to share those pretty things with you, friends. Mm. Galatians 3, verse 13. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, curses everyone who is hung on a pole. God is not cursed. Yeah. You see, it's more confusion. They're very psychedelic inspired. Psychedelic inspired. I love it. It's true. I have learned a lot from those psychedelic spaces, and I try and share the beautiful parts of it with my friends. Do you sell them? I do. I have like stickers. Here, actually. There we go. There's one of my pieces of art made physical. There's technically another little piece down there. I made that one too. So yeah, I do sell them. That's technically where I've earned most of my income, is in selling my art. I appreciate you, friends, for spending some time with me today. It was a pleasure being in this space together. I'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye, friends. Thank you for spending